Welcome to New Awakenings with Edgar Casey's A.R.E, where together through some incredible conversations, we go on beautiful journeys of discovery that might shape the way you think about things and could even change your life.
Our guest today is remarkable. Her life was turned completely upside down when she took a Usui method Reiki class, which then thrust her into a world of psychic senses. She is all of a sudden all the C's. She's clairvoyant, clairaudient, clairsentient, whatever, all the clair things she is. But she's specifically better known for her ability to communicate with angels. And in fact, she is the founder of Reiki with the Angels, a new modality that is absolutely breathtaking. She also teaches psychic development and defense against the dark arts worldwide via teleclasses and webinars, and she is a dear friend of ours. Ellen, we're so happy to have you on the show today, Ellen Malloy.
Thank you. My gosh, how do you go with that? Oh my man.
That's just you. It's all all
You
day.
guys are awesome.
Yeah, the hard part was like tamping it down.
I know.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been around a little long in the tooth.
Well,
that kind of
you are
thing.
you have a youthful demeanor and everything about you is it's just absolutely wonderful,
It's so
lovely.
joyful.
Aw,
Yeah, it
Thank
really
you.
is.
Thank you.
I think probably the best way to just jump into the conversation.
Yeah.
Angels, huh?
Yeah. Who'd have
Is
thought?
that a question?
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
and an answer at the same time. But so angels, how did you get connected with angels?
It was very bizarre.
Mm.
So I'm going to give you my nutshell version of the story to get fast forward to angels. But I got sick. And for years and years, I was getting sick and I was going from doctor to doctor trying to find out what was going wrong with me. My hair was falling out. My skin was turning gray. At first they said, oh, you're a stressed out corporate executive. That must be it. You should do meditation and yoga. And I was thinking, really? Oh, okay. I tried yoga. I wasn't very good at it. I tried meditation. I fell in love with it. So time is going on and I end up meeting a woman who says, you should try Reiki. Like it's really the bomb. Now this was 2001. Reiki wasn't, I'd never heard of it. So I go and I take a class and I loved it. It was like awesome. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is such something I would have never imagined. Couldn't, have ever wrapped my head around it being a thing, but I loved it. So then 2003 comes and I'm getting married. And the Reiki master says, oh, your wedding gift, that's going to be Reiki level 2. And I'm thinking, wow, I don't know what that is.
I don't think
but
that was on the
like-
registry.
I was like,
Fondue pot.
okay. I was like, thank you, sir, for that. Whatever. So we go to the Reiki level 2, and I haven't looked it up. I don't even know what it is. And then he's talking about working on other people, and I'm thinking, nah, I'm a corporate executive. I work in computers. Like I'm not doing this weirdness. We're not telling anybody I do this ever. So everything's going along just fine. I'm really not paying even that much attention because I'm not thinking I'm going to ever do this. It's like fascinating. And then comes the attunement. Now, the attunement is the sacred ceremony that the Reiki master performs. Now, the first time it happened, it was just like a lovely spiritual experience. And so I'm just expecting the same. And he does the thing, and I think I'm the last person. So he does the other people, and he gets to me, and it goes weird. And I don't know what that means exactly, but I feel very strange afterwards. I felt kind of disoriented, and I thought, maybe something I ate for lunch is messing with me. Like, that's what I'm thinking. So I'm like, gosh, I feel weird. And I'm like, man, this is not the first, I was like, okay, well, whatever. So we drive home. And I'm feeling straight, so I put the chair back in the seat. I'm like, I'm just going to lay down because I'm feeling weird. So we get home, and to my extreme surprise, I could see dead people.
Yeah.
Wait.
So how did you feel? Were you just like, oh my God, I'm nuts? Like, what's
I
happening?
was so shocked that I really had my whole brain just went offline. I was like, what is happening here? And so they're attempting to talk to me. I don't know who they are. So it's not like my deceased grandmother came and I'm like, oh, this is like
Right.
rando people.
But we're not talking about Walking Dead type
No,
of
we're
dead
not
people, right?
zombies. We're
Okay.
not. It's
All
not.
right, all right.
That's a whole other show.
Yeah. And so for me, I could see them. They were transparent, and I could, And anyway, they're trying to talk to me, and they want me mostly to like call their relatives or solve some sort of problem, and I'm just completely baffled. I'm like, oh my gosh, is this normal? And my spouse, who I had been married to for 1 month, he could initially like see them, but he wasn't getting that same clarity I was. He was just like, oh, there's a man approaching. I was like, yes. And he wants me to call his daughter or whatever it was. And I'm just like, I'm a left brain person. I'm left brain dominant. So I'm just like shocked. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what is happening here? And so I'm thinking, okay, this is weird. This is probably just a side effect. It'll go away. I'll just ignore it. So as the days are going on, I'm literally ignoring them. They're trying to talk to me. I'm like, I don't hear you. Don't hear you. Don't see you. Don't know what's going on. Yeah. So after this is continuing to go on for a few, like a few days, I call the Reiki master guy. I'm like, Reiki master dude, we have a problem. I am now seeing dead people. This did not happen in the first attunement. Now we have this. And he says to me, wow, really? He said, I have never known anyone to become psychic from a Reiki attunement. He said, well, I'm not psychic. I don't actually know anyone who is. He said, I think it's part of your life path. Good luck with that.
Oh.
And I'm like,
thanks for signing the release form that says you will not sue us for.
Yeah. And I'm just like, okay. So I'm thinking, well, I mean, he has no answers for me. I guess I just whatever. So I get off the phone with him and I'm like, all right, well, I'm just going to keep it on and just keep ignoring these people. But they keep showing up every day and they're trying to talk to me. And mostly I would say 90% of them want me to talk to their relatives. And I'm like, look, I don't even know you. I don't know your relatives. I'm not calling people, And so I start talking back. And what I started saying was, look, I get it. You need help. You need somebody. You need clergy. You need a psychotherapist. You need a detective, police detective. I am none of these things. I'm a computer nerd. Like, I can't help you with any of this stuff. And far as I know, none of you people need computers. So I would say, can you please go and find somebody else? I'm sure there's like somebody else who does this. It's not me. So they would just mostly be like, like you are no help, lady. No help at all. And I'm like, okay. So that was relatively okay until the day it wasn't. So this is going on. Months are going on. These people are showing up and I'm giving them my spiel. And then one day I'm getting ready to go to bed and I'm getting myself ready. And this lady comes running in. And at this point, I'm starting to like figure out the dead people thing a little bit. In the beginning, I was just baffled by the whole thing. And I'm starting to, okay, if this person is not dressed from this era, they've died a long time ago. So I've got this woman who looks like she's in maybe the 1600 garb. So I'm like, all right, this lady died a long time ago. And she starts yelling at me. Now, no one had yelled at me. And she's yelling and it's something to do with murder. And I'm just like, okay. And I'm like, ma'am. And she's not having it. She's not listening to me. She won't stop. And so my husband walks in and he hears me trying to have this, ma'am dialogue. And I said, he goes, what is going on? I said, well, I got this lady. She's clearly deceased and she has possibly been murdered, or maybe she thinks I murder. I don't know. There's something with murder. And I said, and she won't go away. And he sits down and he says, yeah, that's not good. I was like, no, not good. He goes, what are you going to do? I said, I don't know. I don't know. What do people do? I don't know. I said, I can't really go to sleep. She's like yelling at me. And so I'm sitting there and she's continuing to yell and I'm just thinking, so I just said, God, I need like an angel or something because I didn't know what to do. Out of the corner of my room, a humongous angel appears, swoops down and takes this lady. And I'm like, oh, wow. And my husband says, what just happened? And I said, why do you ask? And he goes, and he says, well, a gush of air just went past me. And I said, yeah, that would be because a humongous angel just appeared and it swooped down and it took the lady. He goes, where did she go? I go, I don't know. Wherever angels pick dead people, I guess. I don't know where she went. And so at first I was just, again, shocked. And then I thought, this is great. This is free. I have an answer. Not like, oh my God, angels exist. This is like, I have an answer to deal with these dead people.
Right.
And so every time at that point, an angel, like a dead person would come in, I'd be like, God, I need an angel. need an angel. And then an angel would appear. Sometimes it was this big one and sometimes it was other ones. But anyway, the angel, so I just thought, well, this is super strange, but whatever. I mean, I now don't have to talk to dead people because they get to within 10 feet of me and they're gone, right? So I'm like, okay, this is good. And so things were going on like this. And I'm like, this is very odd, but whatever, I found a solution. I can live my life. So then one day I'm walking out of the kitchen past the dining room and I see an angel standing there. And I'm like, oh, there's an angel. What? Wait a minute. Is there a dead person here? I didn't call an angel. And I'm looking around and he's just standing there. And I'm like, okay, thank you. Carry on. And so then within short order, I see angels everywhere. And they're standing with people. They're all over the place. There's big ones, little ones. I see ones with children that look like children. I'm like, oh my God, I've acclimated myself to seeing angels somehow. I'm like, what the heck? And I thought, well, I guess this is good. I mean, it's weird, but it was.
So I got to ask.
Go ahead.
Because angels, right?
Yeah.
In the biblical sense, right?
Mhm.
Angels are very different than the angels that you see in literature and things like that, right? All the eyes and the geometric shapes and things like that. What does an angel look like?
Okay. So there are different angels that look all kinds of different ways, but the angels I was seeing were guardian angels and archangels, but I didn't have any, other than religious concepts of angels and stained glass and so forth. I didn't have really I never was interested in metaphysics. I was reading about angels and seraphims with 6 eyes and 4, whatever, the weird looking angels. And so I was seeing the way that they present to me is mostly exactly like Renaissance pictures of angels. Gowns, halos, big white wings, human looking, some were older looking, some were younger looking, some were white, some were black, some were Asian. But they all looked somewhat like that. When I started to meet other people who also saw angels, because, in the beginning, my thought was, Lord, does anybody else do this? I don't know if anybody does this. And I'm thinking, who would I have heard of in culture that does it? Joan of Arc? I don't know. I was like, so I thought, man, I have just gone into the weird zone. And I was like, I guess it's comforting to know there are angels all over the place helping us, but it was very odd.
Yeah.
And so then slowly the angels start communicating to me. And at first the communications were pointing or don't do that, or, things like that. It was just really simple, like thumbs up. I would get thumbs up. I was like, okay, thank you for that. I'd order sushi for lunch. They'd be like,
really?
And I'm like, yeah, I guess it was good food for me. And I was like, thank you for the sushi, whatever.
Allergies.
Yeah, because I have food allergies. And so then they started slowly talking to me more and more. And probably the first significant communication I started having was when I was practicing Reiki. Because remember, I took Reiki too, but I was not planning to do it with anybody, ever, ever, ever. I wasn't going to tell anybody.
Right.
But I started feeling this overwhelming urge to practice Reiki with other people. And I'm like, it's just my husband and I living in an apartment with a cat, and whatever. So I'm just like, who am I going to do this on? So I start telling my close friends, and I have a degree in fine art. So I start telling my artsy fartsy friends, thinking maybe they'll be okay with this.
A little bit more open
right,
to something.
right. Because mostly my colleagues at that time are computer nerds. Right. And I had one friend who was did yoga, but I wasn't sure this was beyond the pale. Right. So I'm like, I don't even know if I'm going to freak her out. This is way beyond yoga, but
Yeah.
So I start inviting people to come over. And what happened was, if you've studied Reiki, then most Reiki is taught where you start at one point and you hold a series of hand positions and you move around the body in an organized fashion. This is what I was taught and this is what I was practiced. And I'm a rule follower. So I do my things the way I'm taught to do them. So I've got my friend on the table and I'm whatever. And Archangel Raphael at this point I've figured out, oh, this one's Michael, this one's Raphael, this one's Gabriel, this is Uriel. I'm starting to this one's a guardian angel. Okay, I'm starting to put the pieces together a little bit. And so I'm working with her and Raphael shows up every time I work with people. So he's normally just standing there. And I'm at her knee or something. And he starts pointing at the shoulder on the opposite side. And I'm like, Okay. And I know, because I figured out I have claircognizance, I have knowing, that what he's telling me is he wants me to go to that point, but I am at the knee. So that means I have a whole lot of points before I get to the shoulder.
Let me
Following the rules.
just, give me
Yeah.
a few,
Yeah.
you know.
And I'm doing that. I'm like, I have to, it's going to take me a while to get there. And he's like, and then I'm thinking, what are you doing? You're arguing with an archangel. So I just go to the shoulder. I'm like, okay, all right,
You
fine.
don't make Raphael wait.
Yeah, I
Right.
so I go to the shoulder, and the next thing I know, he has me go somewhere else, and it's out of sync again, and somewhere else, and somewhere else, and somewhere else, and I'm like,
It's chaos.
this does not make any sense. And then I'm thinking, well, I mean, who am I to whatever argue with the freaking angel? So basically, in short order, what happens is I abandon the whole hand position system, and I do what I call go where you're guided. So I just go where I'm guided, which meant sometimes I did sessions all in the front, all in the back, all at the head, all at the feet. I hold positions for seconds instead of minutes. I hold sometimes positions for half the session, one position. Sometimes the place where I'm going seems to make no sense. It's like the person's like, I have a heart problem. I'm like, yes, and I'll be working on your feet. And, or like, so people started to think this was peculiar, right? And so then word got around, I'm doing Reiki kind of weird, Ellen's doing something while I'm weird over here. And I had a Reiki master come. She didn't tell me she was a Reiki master. And I do this session on her. And at the end, she says, that was odd. And I was like, yes. And she goes, so you only did one half of my body. And I said, yep. And she said, don't you want it to be balanced? I said, yep. Ideally. I said, she goes, well, why did you do it that way? I said, well, because I talked to Archangel Raphael and I go where I'm guided, and I was only guided to do this side. And so she calls me back a week later and she said, that was the weirdest Reiki session I've ever had. She said, but I realized a day later that my arthritis was so improved that I must come and study with you. And I said, oh, well, that's great, except for I have no course of study. I'm not there's not a system. I said I simply took the standard UC Reiki, and I was attuned and became weird, and now I am a weird person, professionally weird.
Not to mention asymmetrical,
strange on every level.
Out of order.
And so she's like, well, can I shadow you, or So I initially started actually having people just shadow me and explain what I was doing. And that included a chiropractor and a medical doctor, and more people just kept showing up. And so people were asking me to attune them. I was like, I can't attune you. I am not a Reiki master. And at this point, I'm so unusual. Becoming a Reiki master in a traditional system of Reiki, it didn't even make sense, because I'm now following Archangel Raphael. I'm doing completely odd things. Like, for instance, I was taught that if you're going to draw symbols, you draw them with your finger and project them in. I'm drawing them with my third eye. And so I'm drawing them in the air with my third eye and projecting them in. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know if other people are doing that. I have no idea. So what happened was I had a very strange experience. And this was when it was after I became psychic, and when I'm feeling a compulsion to work with people. So I went out, I started buying Reiki books, because admittedly, I didn't pay good enough attention in the class, because I never thought I was going to do it. So I buy these Reiki books, and I'm a recovering perfectionist, admittedly. So I want to make sure I understand everything there is to understand about Reiki, including how to use the symbols. I wanted to know how to draw them. I wanted them memorized. And of course, as you know, the most complicated symbol is the distance healing, right? It's very long. And it's Asian, as you can tell. I'm not Asian. So I'm reading these books. I have books all laid around. I'm like Hermione Granger in Hogwarts. Yeah. I'm like, blah, blah, blah. So I lay a book down and I pick up a notepad and I draw the distance healing symbol over and over and over and over, probably about 50 times. And I sit it down. I'm like, good, I got that memorized. And I go back to my book, which happened to be open to a page with Mikao Usui, who's the founder of Americanized. Yes. Right. And his picture's on there. And I pick the book up and I lock eyes with the picture, and suddenly I'm thrust out of my body. And I'm in the cosmos, and I'm like, what? What is happening? And then there's a big head of the founder of Reiki, and I've got Mrs. I think it's Hayashi and Mr. Tarkat. No, wait a minute, maybe their names picks up. Anyway, I've got I think it's Mr. Hayashi and Ms. Tarkata. And so there's 3 heads, and all of a sudden symbols start flying at me. And they're just like, and then I'm back in my body. To me, the whole thing lasted seconds.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, what the heck? And I had a couple of out-of-body experiences, but nothing like that.
Wow.
And then I'm sitting there, and I'm waiting for some understanding to occur. Like, I got all these symbols. I'm thinking that it's a language, like they were communicating to me. Even though it happened so fast, I couldn't understand anything, nor do I know Japanese culture. So I, whatever. Yeah. So I wouldn't have been able to follow. So I'm sitting there and I'm waiting. Okay. Thank you for that. Any explanation here? Any sort of explanation would be good. I got no explanation. So I said, okay. So one of the things I had developed was a system of dealing with weird stuff. And I call it the X-Files. So I have a box in my brain and I call it the X-Files. And when something weird happens and I don't know what it is and no one explains it to me, I just say, okay, I'm going to put this in the X-Files and that's where it's going to stay unless anybody explains this to me.
Right.
Yeah. So I stuck it in the X-Files and I forgot about it. So then fast forward about a year or so, all these people keep coming and wanting me to train them and wanting me to attune them. And the chiropractor's wife, I worked out of a chiropractor's office with Clinton Kinnear and his wife, Teresa. And Teresa came to me and said, I must study this with you. And I said, well, she had never been attuned. So I said, well, you'll need to go study Reiki with someone and then I can explain how I integrate the angel piece. She goes, no, you're my teacher. I'm like, Teresa, I can't attune you. I'm not a Reiki master. And Archangel Raphael, who's standing over here, says, yes, you are. And I'm like, no, I'm not. He goes, yes, you are. I said, no, I'm not. And he goes, you are, Ellen, you're a Reiki master. And I said, okay. So I'm having this dialogue with him. I said, are you talking about like a past life? Was I right? I don't know what he's referring to. He goes, remember that experience? The one with the out of body and the big heads? He goes, that's when you became a Reiki master. And I went, what?
So you were attuned by the masters,
wow,
founders of Reiki.
Yes.
Which means that now you can attune people and people can learn to do what you're doing, which is fantastic.
Yes.
Wow.
This has been the easiest interview we have ever done. We just team it up and there you go. Well,
it's so interesting. So I know you guys have a million questions.
You answered all of them, really.
Yeah.
Wait, the one question that comes to mind before we close out the interview, because we are running out of time, unfortunately, already, is if someone wanted to learn more about Reiki with angels, what's the best way for someone to reach out to you?
Go to ReikiWithAngels.com. So for a while there, people were calling it Ellen's Reiki. And I was like, oh, no, there's no Ellen's Reiki. That's not a thing. So I coined the term Reiki with angels because that most easily described what I was doing. I was doing Reiki with angels.
Perfect.
Very creative.
And it's lovely, doesn't
I know.
it? Like if you're going to do Reiki, why not do it with angels?
Yeah,
right. Why not with angels?
Yeah. No, I've experienced a class with Reiki with Ellen, Reiki with angels, and it was astounding. So if you have an opportunity to look into it, I would urge you strongly to check it out because not only is she an incredible teacher, but the whole modality is such a loving, wonderful experience. So, Ellen,
thank you.
This has been absolutely wonderful. The time flew by.
Yes.
I hope this is not the only time we'll have you in the studio or on the stage because the epitome of only scratching the surface. Like we haven't even scratched the scratch of the surface.
We've looked at the surface.
Right. But really appreciate you coming and spending some time with us today.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
And if you missed any part of this interview or any of our other ones, all you need to do is go to edgarcasey.org/resources. You'll find all of the past interviews laid in there directly for you, so it's easy to access. We are thankful for you joining us on this episode. That does it, unfortunately. So we'll see you on the next episode of New Awakenings with Edgar Cayce's A.R.E.
Bye-bye.